This one?
Yeah.
It's like a bank.
Firearms, man, you have to keep it safe. Too much responsibility. I'm actually taking my hunter's head finally today.
Today?
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
All right, thanks for coming. Sorry about this month pause. We had a series of competitions here and there, so we needed to do that. But the good thing is not too cold outside. It's perfect weather. So today we're going to talk about the things which makes it different for us in biathlon compared to normal shooting competitions, for example. So I would split it into two big buckets. One is environmental and another one is like race factors. Environment, we'll talk about the wind, the precipitation and the cold. For the racing condition, we'll talk about the heart rate, breath and the muscle tremor. So let's start with the environment. So the wind is probably the funniest and like most surprising thing we can see. You can find different detailed level of recommendations. Like if typically what we look at the wind flags and make our decision how we correct our shooting. Speaking of that, we typically have multiple wind flags. One is closer to you, at least two. One is closer to you, one is closer to the target. What do you think is the most important?
The one in descends.
The one which is closer to us is actually the most important one. And for two reasons. If we're talking about the bullet, how it goes and how it deviates, the earlier we deviate the bullet from the proper trajectory, the more it will travel wrong with each feet forward. So a little bit of the wind, like the same wind in the beginning, like closer to us, affect the bullet more compared to something like very close to the target. The same is true when we shoot in standing. And I should mention that. So when we shoot prone and we shoot standing, at what moment we are more affected by the wind, you think? When shooting prone or we shooting standing? Actually both. And you're right that standing is more challenging. But it goes in a different way. When we shoot prone, we typically have no problem with aligning the sights with the target. But what the wind does, it deviates the bullet and it goes in the wrong spot. Instead of the center, it goes sideways somewhere. When we shoot standing, it's a different story. We cannot even we cannot even align the sights because the wind pushes our body and our rifle, so it's wobbling around. So it also deviates the bullet, but it's not that important for standing. When we shoot standing, it's more important that we cannot just align. So going back with the two flags, farther away and closer to us, when the wind goes, like it may be different at the target and at the mates level. If it's stronger with the mates, we will feel it more. And yet actually when you shoot standing, you don't need much. You will feel the wind instead of like looking at the flags. So how much, there are two strategies how to fight with the wind. One is doing correction with the clicks. Another one is do something shooting into the wind, or like do something advancing, dynamic advancing on the target. So let's talk about the first one. And I honestly prefer the first one because for the second one you need to practice a lot to be good at it. So basically the biggest thing you need to know is if there is no wind and you zeroed at the center, no wind, you will hit the center. If the wind is so bad that it goes like this, So the wind flag is sideways and flapping. This is 10 clicks to that direction, obviously. So 10 clicks is the maximum amount of clicks you can experience in your life. You probably will not, I think it will be more than that. The competition typically just cancelled. So 10 clicks is like the maximum you can see. If you see the wind is not that strong, there will be something intermediate. And I could probably put something for you like the wind goes like this, like this, like this, but it's very subjective, and it will be very hard to judge, hard to make a good guess what's going on with the wind. You just need to remember it's 10 clicks, and this is something intermediate. Another thing is instead of doing clicks, what you could do is, instead of aligning the sides like this on the target, like perfectly in the center, this is our target, this is what we see in the front side. We can do something like if the wind goes from here, it will pull the bullet to the right, so we would probably do something like this. So this is what we should call the wind advancing. So we pull the rifle, do some dynamic correction, pull the rifle to the right to overcome this wind. Right? This one is harder. This one is good when the wind is not predictable. Like if it go in gusts, like high wind, slow wind, high wind, different direction, you just will not be able to do clicks like quick enough, and that would be better. On the other hand, this requires a lot of practice. I know that some teams in some countries, they have the fans installed literally right next to their shooting range, so they can turn it on and off and variate it, so you can control the wind just exactly to figure out how the wind looks on their flags and how to do different kind of correction. We don't have luxury, so like 10 clicks, intermediate. We'll try to do that, but be careful with that. So that's about it with the wind. Now precipitation. Snow, rain, freezing rain, right? Snow can go inside your barrel. Snow can block your sights. Snow can melt and then get frozen back. For example, if you get a cartridge, a bullet, which is covered by which is wet, you put it into the barrel, it freezes up, you cannot extract it. I felt it a couple of times. So, what does it mean? That means we should use snow covers every time, like if we have it. If we forgot to put the snow cover on, what do? Like we come to the range and we cannot see through the side. It's all blocked by the snow or wet. What do? So what we don't do, we don't turn the rifle to us and blow into it. Why? Because it's dangerous and it's more like we will be disqualified. It's against the rules. So what I would do is like lay down on the mat, put the rifle right next to me, like directed to the range, and try to blow it from this direction outside. So it will be, this will be the safest thing we can do. What else? Keep the magazines dry. Don't let the snow or water contaminate, for obvious reason. It can be frozen, you cannot extract it. If you go to the competition, if you come to the competition and it's very like, there's snow is coming, for example, what do you do with the rifle? You can put it, for example, you need to go inside to register, right? There may be cases where you cannot carry the rifle with you. You need to put it on the rack, right? If you put it on the rack like naked without the case, it will be covered with snow or water. You don't want it. So for that reason, the case with the window that shows you that the bolt is open is the preference. Like yours is perfect, for example. because if you put it in the case and no one can see if the bolt is open or closed, you can be disqualified just because nobody knows your bolt can be open, right? Or can be closed, which is against the rules. All right, so coming to the competition, put the rifle in the case. It will cool off, but it will stay dry, no snow. That's probably it. Oh, another thing about the snow. Many times we come into the shooting range, and if there is fresh layer of snow there, they put the mat on top of it. You put your elbows, and the elbows go, and you're probably there. Sometimes your hips will be like leveled, but your elbow go down. So what do you do? Any ideas what to do?
Change your position.
Yeah, change your position back. Typically, like the softest snow is in front. If we pull ourselves back, your knees or maybe your like belly will be on the snow, but your elbows, which is the most important thing, will be leveled and on the hard snow. Yeah. Another thing, yeah, that's basically it. Last thing is cold. It's not fun when you need to do precision work with your trigger finger and it's numb. You don't feel it, right? So it's different for all the folks. For me, my hands get frozen very quickly. If I bike, if I motorcycle, this is the first thing that got frozen. So for that reason, I choose the thickest possible damn gloves, and I always use it. Some people, what they do, they make a little cut on their glove, and when they need to shoot, they kind of slide it off. So you can put your finger on the trigger, feeling it the best. Check yourself. If you feel like your glove blocks your feeling of the trigger, you can do something like that. I found that for myself, it's not a big problem. Like I always feel it well. There can be, especially here in Colorado, it can be super cold days when even the thickest gloves are not enough. You get frozen anyways. So for that reason, I use the mittens. Probably see some of those. So this is the glove that I use. So the gloves that I personally prefer is the one like this. This is the thickest I can find in the ski store. And here is the mittens that you can put over your gloves and use it for the first lap when you ski around. After you're done with the lap, you warm up, you just throw it away on the snowbank and pick it. Don't forget to pick it up later. That's about it about the environment. Any questions? Right, let's go to the racing factors. So, heart rate. You probably know, all of you know that if you calm down, your group will be tighter compared to if you are like just skied, right? And you may think that all the different heart rates in between will just linearly, slowly increase your group size. It turns out it's not true, and this is good to know. So, if you think about the heart rate and the group size, when your heart rate is like, for example, normally you have something like 60, and here you have the small group size, like 1 inch, for example, which may look like something like this. If you are like at 150, just skid your loop. This will be probably something different. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the big group size that probably give us like 6 inches. It turns out that if you slow down, your group size becomes smaller. If you slow down a little more, it becomes bigger. And you want to be in this sweet spot. And this is a little bit hard to understand why it's going on. My guess is here the heart is so slow you can shoot between the heartbeats. You have enough time to aim and take the shot. If you go here, it will be not enough time. It's like, for example, like someone standing near you saying, "Hey Vlad, hey Vlad, hey Vlad, hey Vlad." It's very distracting. It's hard to do that. If you go even higher, it will be like, instead of like this bouncing, it will be like tiki 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 tiki. Someone bounces you all the time, but it kind of gets together in the constant noise, which is not as distracting. So this is why this is the best shot. So what it means for us, you need to figure out what is the heart rate that is best for you for shooting. Do some experiments, use like any heart monitors, or use your like, just check your pulse. What I personally do, and you can watch most of the biathletes in the World Cup, what they do, last half a mile, they slow down, you can see they're not intensive as normally. They put their shades on the forehead, remove their poles, and they kind of prepare the samples for shooting. That should be enough to get you about here. But again, try experiment, figure out what's the best for you. The next one, the breath. We already talked about the breathing. What I wanted to add, check at the World Cup videos what the folks do there. You will notice that when they put themselves into the mat, they breathe very, very heavily. They breathe extensively, even after the finish, they don't breathe that hard. So the reason for that is they know that as soon as they start shooting, there will be, if they breathe too many times, like 5-10 breaths between the shots, they will lose too much time. So they say, okay, why I don't breathe like in advance? I'm not shooting yet, but I have time. Like when I'm setting up, putting the magazine in, I can fill myself with the oxygen by very deep and extensive breathing. This is what they do, and this is what I suggest to do too. So this way it will be easier for you to do less breath between the shots. That's about it for the breath. And the muscle tremor. Muscle tremor kind of relates to the same picture. If you just go skiing at this point, high heart rate, and you slow down a little bit, most likely you'll be good to shot. If you slow down even more, you will feel like your muscles start to contract uncontrollably. And you can see that sometimes the biathletes in the World Cup, if they need to stand too much waiting for the wind gusts, for example, what they do is they like stand up and like sit and stand up just to warm up their legs, because they start to shaky. They start being shaky. So again, try to stay over here. If you're forced over here, try to do some activities. You can move your hands, you can sit and stand up. That's about it for the racing conditions. We can also briefly touch the mental racing conditions, like we are under pressure, we're panicking that we will miss the shots, we are in a hurry, something like that. Well, this we already talked about in the past, so calm down, be confident that you'll be good. Don't switch to the running mode too early. So make all your 5 shots. You can see that many times the folks are shooting in the World Cup and they miss the last shot. That's because they're too fast. They're switching to their running mode too quickly without finishing their job on the shooting range. Don't do that. That's it. Any questions? Right, let's try to do our shooting indoor today. We'll use these small targets. This typically used, we use those for Winter League. So use the central ones for 0. I would not do more than a couple of shots in each target because it will be harder to find which one is which. This one is up to you. You'll get several of those. Exercises today. One thing I want you to try is this. Try to do the dynamic correction against the wind. Do something like this. Do several shots and check where your bullets actually go. Remember, 10 clicks would be, if this is your target, this is how many clicks? This is our pro meter. Recall? 8 clicks.
But that's for end shoots or for...
This is for unshoots, not for Izmash. Izmash will be double that, like 16. So 10 clicks is roughly from the center to the edge. So if this is very strong wind, like you'll need to basically aim in like this. This is your target, this is your sight. I would, we'll take several targets and we'll do exactly like this. We'll aim to the edge and do like one magazine. Aim to another edge, do another magazine. For the wind, standing shooting typically means that we need to figure out when the gust of the wind calms down and we need to take a shot. Remember we did something shooting on the command? We'll do the similar thing for the standing. So I will tell you what the wind is doing and your task will be to shoot quickly when the wind comes down. That's about it. We can, another thing that we could try is practice closing your snow covers, but I don't think it's a good usage of our time on the shooting range. So you can practice it at home every time. All right? Hello. Okay, let's go to the shooting range.
One question, Vlad.
Yeah.
In your experience, do you see like if you're that difference of like how much difference the wind is making? Does it really is it that big? Or you think it's mostly our rifle is moving that much?
When I shoot prone, I most of the time can control the rifle. I can aim it where I want it.
Yeah.
Even in the center, the bullets go sideways.
So it diverts still
Yeah.
mostly from wind.
Yeah. On the other hand, my experience says, like most of the time you can just ignore wind. Like most of the time there will be more important problems, like you're too tired, or like it can be anything. Like until you are super consistent to hitting all your prone targets, like 5 out of 5 all the time, wind should not be like highest of your problem. So
Yeah.
like,
I was just wondering, like, if everything like within us, like pro and everything is like pretty good, like we do good shots, is the group is gonna be all on one side at the edge of it or not? I haven't experienced that myself.
that's typical, and you will, as soon as you keep shooting, you will improve it. It will happen less and less frequency. So don't ignore wind, but put your priorities right. If there is something else to work on besides the wind, you can work on those things first.
And the other thing is precipitation. If it's snowing heavy, have you had that like your shots are low, or it's not that big of a deal?
Theoretically, it should.
But it's not.
I do not see much difference personally, but you should try. This is the thing that I always say. Don't trust anyone, including me. I can give you an idea.
Yeah, I'm asking
You
because
can put it on test, and you should put it on test.
I haven't done it yet. That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Awesome.